Hi, audience.
I
It's the Ted and Dessie show.
was thinking about this.
From my book?
Yes, it's from your book. Well, when did the IRS become involuntary? So and right after this, I think you pretty much covered what we needed to on the New Deal and FDR.
Oh no, there's tons more, but we won't go into that today.
But then right after
But
this,
last week we did driver license. So we're skipping all over.
That's true.
Okay, when did the IRS become voluntary? When do you think it was, based on the facts of my book?
Well, let me see. I've read it so out of order most of the time. Good question, but boy, I have to think about.
Could I answer that quickly?
Well,
Never?
Never. Well, 13 in 1913, it took a big step backward when we gave our right to coin money away to the Federal Reserve.
Well, that had nothing to do with voluntary income tax. That had nothing to do with income tax. Because income tax for the average person, they didn't even know about it until 1941 when the first forms were sent out. After, well, I guess it wouldn't have been in preparation for the war to be declared. This is, a friend of mine sent me this wonderful booklet, 1992, 1044. No forms included, but what's inside, it says. We go to page 3. Can you read that? Do you need glasses?
No. Start up here.
Right here, bracketed.
You are among the millions of Americans who comply with the new tax law voluntarily.
Oh, what was that?
You are among the millions of Americans who comply, it's not talking to me for sure, who comply with the tax law voluntarily. As a taxpayer and as a customer of the Internal Revenue Service, you deserve excellence in the service we provide.
And what service do they provide?
The theft.
Well, they actually, I think, were employed to keep wages for Social Security, but only for the ones in the Social Security Act, which only the states in the Social Security Act, which were District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, possessions and territories of the United States, Alaska, and Hawaii. So, why are there millions of Americans that comply? And then he was kind enough to stick this on here, Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, comply, to yield, to accommodate, or adapt oneself to accept, enact, or accordance with. Would you believe that to mean that?
It's voluntary. It's not by law. It's not
People
mandatory.
believe it's mandatory?
No.
Okay, let's look at the 1993 1040 form. Once again, we go to page 3. What does page 3 fit? Oh, by the way, let us say that this was a statement, a preface by Shirley D. Peterson, the commissioner. This is a note from the commissioner. Thank you for volunteering into our system. Shirley D. Peterson, the commissioner of the Internal Revenue.
In 1993 they were sending that out.
1992. Now comes 1993.
Okay.
And who is this from?
This is from Margaret Milner Richardson.
And she is the commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. That's commissioner of Internal Revenue, okay? And what does Margaret say?
Margaret says, thank you for making...
Dear taxpayer.
Dear taxpayer, well, thank you for making this nation's tax system the most effective system of the voluntary compliance in the world.
You were laughing. Voluntary compliance in the world is what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The way to...
No, the key.
The key to maintaining that system is ensuring that you are treated fairly and equitably.
Oh, it just makes your heart quiver, doesn't it?
This was good, guys.
And this one, my friend was kind enough to put Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, compliance. The definition is submission, obedience, conformance. So know that you are obedient, you are submissive. You are bending to the will of a lesser God by voluntarily giving your property to someone else. So, in answer to that, when did the IRS become voluntary?
1941.
Never involuntary. is the question.
Oh, become involved. Okay. Read the question. Start out by reading the question.
Big F for him. Before I go on to the next little item to do with this, across into my email today came this really lovely thing. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I'm going to read some of it because I just found it to be so relevant. This is by John Whitehead. It was written May 31st, 2016, and John Whitehead has written a book called Battlefield America, The War on the American People. And his comments today were, first he starts with a quote, "The evil was not in bread and circuses." In case nobody understands bread and circuses, that's what the Romans did. They had circuses in the arenas in order to divert the people from the slavery they were keeping them in, and they fed them bread. The evil was not in bread and circuses per se, but in the willingness of the people to sell their rights as free men for full bellies and the excitement of the games, which would serve to distract them from the other human hungers which bread and circuses can never appease. That's by Admiral Ben Morial, Chief of the U.S. Navy's Bureau of Yards and Docks and of the Civil Engineers Corps. And he lived 1892 to 1978. And Mr. Whitehead says, as the grandfather of 3 young ones, ages 5 to 9, I get to see my fair share of kid movies, plenty of hijinks, lots of bathroom humor, and an endless stream of slapstick gags. Yet even among the worst of the lot, there's something to be learned, some message being conveyed, or some aspect of our reality being reflected in celluloid. So it was that I found myself sitting through the Angry Birds movie on a recent Sunday afternoon, doling out popcorn, candy, and drinks, and trying to make sense of a 90-minute movie based on a cell phone video game that has been downloaded more than 3 billion times. The storyline is simple enough. An island nation of well-meaning, feel-good, flightless birds gets seduced by a charismatic green pig and his cohort who comes bearing food, wine, and entertainment spectacles, the Roman equivalent of bread circuses. Ignoring the warnings of one solitary, suspicious, angry bird that the pigs are up to no good, the clueless birds eventually discover that the pigs have stolen their most precious possessions, their eggs, the future of their entire society. It takes the angry bird to motivate the normally unflappable bird nation to get outraged enough to do something about the violation of their trust by the pigs and the theft of their personal property. While one would be hard-pressed to call the angry birds overly insightful, it is, as The Atlantic concludes, a feather-light metaphor for our times. The film functions effectively as a fairy tale. It uses its status as fantasy to impart lessons about reality. It turns out that we're no different from the wine-guzzling, food-noshing, party-loving bird nation. We too are easily fooled by charismatic politicians bearing gifts, and we too are easily distracted as some politicians and their directed as those same politicians and their cohorts rob us blind. I don't think politicians and their cohorts are robbing us blind. I think we're taking from ourselves out of ignorance and stupidity for nothing else. I mean, the most precious things the bird has are their eggs. That means their progeny. The most precious thing we have are our nest eggs. I mean, other than our family, our children, our nest eggs. If we let people rob our nest eggs, we in fact are giving our children away. It appears to me that Mr. Whitehead's book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People, would be well worth reading.